The year is 213 BC, and the city-state of Syracuse has just switched sides. They now find themselves at war with the Roman Republic. Across the western Mediterranean, a war of attrition rages on between Rome and Carthage. Many city-states have been forced to pick sides, and Syracuse has taken a major gamble. Sicily is largely under Roman control, and soon they will find themselves surrounded. Under the Roman general, Marcus Claudius Marcellus, the city is besieged. The odds are stacked against the city of Syracuse, but among the defenders is a pioneer of mathematics and engineering, Archimedes. Archimedes was the brains behind the elaborate defenses of Syracuse, which held off repeated Roman assaults for 2 years. Designing war machines and defenses which surprised the Romans and sent fear into the souls of Roman soldiers. But how did a mathematician hold off a Roman army? Our story begins long before the Siege of Syracuse. Under the rule of Hiero II, the king commissions Archimedes to strengthen Syracuse's defenses in anticipation of a siege. So Archimedes gets to work, spending hours in his home and staring at the sea, thinking of every possible way an attacker could breach the city walls. Archimedes has a sudden revelation. He immediately gets to work. Several years earlier, Archimedes had demonstrated to the king that he could lift an entire ship with nothing more than a series of pulleys. Because much of Syracuse's wall line borders the sea, any assault on those seaward defenses would have to come by ship. So Archimedes asks himself, if he can move a friendly ship in the harbor, could he build a machine that seizes an enemy ship that sails too close? From this line of thinking, the claw of Archimedes is born. Several of these crane-like claws are installed along the seaward walls, ready for any assault that comes from the sea. But even with the sea approaches covered, Syracuse is still vulnerable to a full siege. The city already has catapults lining the landward walls. However, they are inaccurate and painfully slow to reload. Because of that, Archimedes once again walks the length of the landward defenses, pondering his next move. The Syracusan catapults were in desperate need of an upgrade. But what could make these catapults better? Archimedes' solution was simple. He constructed different-sized catapults, each designed to cover a different range. This took the guesswork out for the defenders, who could focus on loading the catapults. Once an army crept forward, all the defenders needed to do was switch to the corresponding catapult. The fire rate and accuracy drastically improved for the defenders, but that wasn't all Archimedes improved. If an attacking army managed to get close to the walls, narrow holes at head height were created so that archers could fire arrows. These were known as the scorpions. But what if the attacker dodged all these obstacles and began scaling the walls? The last line of mechanical defense was ingenious. Archimedes designed pivoting beams which would unleash a load above the enemy. Rocks and timber would come crashing down, crushing any attacker. Archimedes had everything pre-built, so the defenders never needed to improvise. Whatever an attacker attempted, the city had a response pre-built and ready to answer. But there was one last siege machine that Archimedes had, something that fell into the realm of legend. Marcus Claudius Marcellus arrives with his army. He expects the capture of Syracuse to take a mere 5 days, and so he orders a classic Roman assault on the city. 60 large war galleys approached the seaward defenses, whilst Roman legionaries attacked the landward walls. As the ships approached the walls, they were suddenly hurled into the air and capsized. Many ships were lost during the initial assault. On land, Roman legionaries were being pummeled far beyond the city perimeter. How could a city fire projectiles with such accuracy and speed? Casualties were high and morale crumbled, but Marcellus pressed on. Wave after wave of Roman assault was repelled. Morale dropped so drastically that any piece of timber protruding from the walls sent fear into the Romans. Many assault troops would turn and run at the sight of such contraptions. After several brutal days, Marcellus called off the attack. He decided that a siege would be more effective. Archimedes had done it. He had successfully driven off a Roman frontal assault with nothing more than mathematics. However, Marcellus continued to attack the city in concentrated areas.
Maybe we should concentrate our forces at sea.
And so, Archimedes unveiled his last defense, the burning mirror of Archimedes. According to legend, Archimedes used mirrors to reflect the sun's light onto Roman ships, setting them on fire. The existence of such contraption is heavily debated today. However, if it did exist, imagine the fear it struck into Roman sailors approaching the city walls. And so, Marcellus and the city of Syracuse settled down for a long siege. But who would come out on top? 18 months passed by, and neither side could break each other. The Romans were unable to prevent Carthaginian supplies from reaching the city, and the Syracusans were unable to break out. A stalemate settled, and Roman morale was at an all-time low. Marcellus considered breaking off the siege and returning to Rome. However, an event would turn the battle in Rome's favor. In 212 BC, the Romans received information that the Syracusans were to celebrate an annual festival for their goddess Artemis. The inhabitants are overconfident, so they leave their defenses lightly guarded. Marcellus takes the opportunity and orders a small party of Romans to scale the walls under the cover of darkness. They snuck through the city as the inhabitants celebrated and burst open the gate. Roman reinforcements poured into the city. The siege was broken, not because of superior Roman tactics, but because of Syracusan cockiness. The city was quickly plundered, but Marcellus issued a stern warning.
Archimedes is to be kept alive.
Archimedes was busy studying in his home when the Romans breached the city walls. A soldier burst into his home while he was busy and ordered,
"You, come with me." "No, I must finish this problem."
The soldier, not knowing who he was, slayed Archimedes and returned to plundering the city. Upon hearing the news, Marcellus ordered the soldier to be punished. So, after nearly 2 years of deadlock, Syracuse didn't fall to brute force or brilliance, but to a single night of lowered guards. Marcellus wanted Archimedes spared, yet in the chaos, a nameless soldier killed him for refusing to be dragged away mid-thought. Syracuse was conquered, and Rome won the city, while the world lost a genius. And that's the bitter ending of the siege. One mind held off an empire until arrogance did what legions couldn't.